Well, new questions about whether there are double standards for some after Alec Baldwin, the actor, went on a rant last week. He took aim at a tabloid reporter who claimed Baldwin's wife was tweeting during the funeral for Sopranos star James Gandolfini. Baldwin has since apologized for the remarks, but just to remind you, here's what he wrote in part. These are just a couple of them. Quote, "My wife and I attend a funeral to pay our respects to an old friend, and some toxic Brit writes this bleeping trash," end quote. And then there was this one. "I'm going to find you, George Stark, you toxic little queen, and I'm going to blank you up," end quote. Joining me now, Malkin, who's a columnist and a Fox News contributor. So now some in the gay community got upset that he was calling some guy a toxic little queen, and also said that he was going to put his foot up the guy's you-know-what, but he claimed he would enjoy it. So this is Alec Baldwin's conflict resolution approach. And he took some incoming on it. And you know what happened, Michelle. You know, his publicist or his agent said, "Alec, what are you doing?" And so he came out and said, "Oh, I apologize. I didn't mean it." And wow, GLAAD doesn't seem that upset about it anymore. They took that apology very, very quickly and said, well, his words yesterday don't match his history of actively supporting our community.
Yes. How lovely to have such apologists rush to your side and excuse what normal, decent people saw not only as homophobic slurs, but far worse. At Twitchy, we curated his entire meltdown the night and day that it happened, and it went far beyond sort of idle attacks on the reporter who admitted that he had gotten the story wrong. What Alec Baldwin ended up doing in these tweets was leveling death threats against the guy. He said, "I'll be tweeting at your funeral." And of course, this is just part and parcel of this anger management candidate's meltdowns, public meltdowns over the years. It's one thing for celebrities to go through their Hollywood bad boy stage, but this is a geezer. I mean, we're talking about the leader of the geriatric Hollywood brat pack who has now threatened reporters physically. This wasn't just an implied death threat, and it certainly wasn't a joke, given his apology afterwards now, but who has also gone after stewardesses on airlines who've reprimanded him for refusing to follow airline safety rules. And it goes back, you know, to really sad and horrible personal situations in which he threatened his own daughter. He's got issues with women. He's got issues with men. He's got issues with everybody.
Yeah, well, I want to talk to you about that. I mean, who could forget the infamous voicemail to his own child, who he didn't think was calling him back, and he was all upset. This is back in 2007, but in case you have forgotten, here's a sample.
Be ready Friday, the 20th, to meet with me. So I'm going to let you know just how I feel about what a rude little pig you really are. You are a rude, thoughtless little pig.
So that's my question, Michelle. Does he get a pass because his anger is indiscriminate?
Well, he gets a pass for any number of reasons, I think, and one is, you know, being part of the Hollywood establishment. Hillary Rosen, who herself engaged in some rather distasteful hate speech against Ann Romney during this campaign, apparently has been a childhood friend of Alec Baldwin's and was another one of these left-wingers who rushed to his side and said, well, he's given a lot of money to charity and he's actually a really good guy, so never mind all of his rude, public, boorish behavior, give the guy a pass. Well, why is that? And I think that the double standard that you mentioned at the beginning between how Paula Deen has been completely vilified and crucified versus Alec Baldwin is a completely trenchant point. Well, why is it?
No, I want to ask you about that because you know who else has given a lot of money to charity is Rush Limbaugh. A lot of money, yes. Millions and millions of dollars. But when he took aim at Sandra Fluke, for example, remarks for which he ultimately, you know, was forced to apologize, and he dialed them back, he lost advertisers, and the blowback against him continues to this day. But you know, his charitable past didn't seem to, you know, soften anybody's assessment of him.
It's a great point. And here is the main difference between Rush Limbaugh's political speech versus Alec Baldwin's completely unhinged ad hominem speech. Rush Limbaugh's always trying to make a political point, an ideological point. He is arguing on public policy grounds, and sometimes he does it in very entertaining ways, or he pushes the edge. But it is never the kind of just completely untethered hate speech and physical threats that Alec Baldwin has been responsible over the years. And this is the question for viewers, for fans, for people who are very concerned about how people are held accountable and the narratives that are played out in the media. Why is it that Capital One has not been called to the carpet for standing by Alec Baldwin, or Hulu, or Bonefish Grill, or any number of these advertisers that continue to stand by Alec Baldwin as he continues his public meltdown?
Michelle Malkin.
Somebody's going to get hurt one of these days.
Thank you, ma'am.
You bet.